Metroid Prime is a staple in modern-day 3D platforming shooter-based action-adventure video gaming. It focuses on the perspective of Samus Aran, whose battles extend beyond her life and etch themselves into history. This legendary genesis of the sublime Metroid Prime paradigm is somewhat of a favorite amongst the Metroid community, earning its place in the top 4, if not the top 3. Point me to one real Nintendo gamer who doesn't recognize this uncanny depiction of what I can only describe as a macroscopically scaled, biodiverse tumor. You can't. In this story, Samus Aran locates a space pirate distress signal, but she isn't necessarily there to save them. In fact, Samus has been known to shoot many space pirates with her gun. One can therefore presuppose that this crazy kid is not necessarily here for a friendly visit. Within the confines of the space pirate frigate, Samus uses her beam weapon to deactivate force fields and open doors. Maybe she also uses her beam weapon to eat tomato soup. Pretty soon, one discovers that all is not well. In one of the initial rooms, we see that a lot of the place is on fire, as a monster appears to not be having the time of his life. The blazing inferno catches the eyes of the gamer, and the more astute viewer might infer connotations of Jungian symbolism, but let's hold our horses. Let's see if we can suss out the basics of Metroid Prime. Samus has the ability to transform into a morph ball. What a useful ability for getting into small chasms and discovering funny secrets, including the map. Traveling further, we discover why this whole enterprise has gone to shit. The space pirates have been trying to maintain some kind of space zoo, but the creatures are too freakish, especially this miserable fuck. The parasite queen looks kind of scary, but don't be intimidated by this introductory taster boss. Samus destroys the creature with her gun, but then ends up destroying the place. The frigate begins to fall out of orbit, and Samus realizes that the notion that she may be in what one could generally describe as a sort of quote-unquote pickle may at the very least be thoroughly regarded as an understatement. She makes it out, and on the way she discovers Ridley, the metal robot super dragon that she's killed like 8 times. Screw it then, if it's another hoedown throwdown you want, then seek and ye shall hoedown throwdown. Soon after this, Samus loses her suit, because of a blast of energy or something. The more astute viewer might be thinking, does this mean we get to see sexy naked Samus? Sadly not. Samus has a lame backup suit called the Power Suit, which she wears for her arrival on Talon 4. Samus Aran puts her spaceship in neutral and hops out, and even though she has a visor on, she still manages to look particularly sad. The metaphoric juxtaposition of the pseudo-sullenness of the high-tech Shozo gear against the pathetic fallacy of the rain-engulfed somberness that blankets the Talon overworld conveys the overarching sense of unfamiliarity that is now experienced. Samus walks around and shoots beetles, she shoots sapsacks, she shoots zoomers, she shoots flowers. Perhaps you're noticing a pattern here. Samus likes to shoot things. More specifically, she is always trying to avoid missing the mark. Let's pay attention to that phrase. Missing the mark is expressed as a single word within the Latin language. Ever heard of sin? Samus discovers the ruins of a hidden tribe of Chaozo, remnants of her foster race. She seeks out evidence of survivors, but all she finds is ancient Chozo wisdom. Most gamers are only interested in shooting the shoot, but if you're a person of intellect, you might be interested in reading the lore. And you wouldn't be disappointed. The Chozo speak of the mysterious phase-on creature that ruined many things, known in their language as the Suicidus Mousus. Flagra is ruining the water supply, but Samus puts a stop to it. Yet the real danger here is not the hyper-evolved flower from hell, but the scratch on my GameCube disc that causes the game to frequently crash while I'm in this area. Samus discovers the Varia suit from this guy for some reason. That makes literally no sense, and yet the symbolism becomes clear at the mythological level of analysis. The all-eating flower, representing the chaotic elements of nature, or the terrible mother, serves its role as the source by which New Order is generated. Familiar in its capacity to offset the chaos of the surrounding world, yet novel in its specific capacity for keeping heat at bay, particularly within the fiery depths of Magmoor Caverns. Magmoor Caverns is a scary place with many lava and fiery heat. Samus needs to not get burned, lest she'll say ouch. Magmors are worm creatures that breathe fire, shock. There are very few individual enemies here that are particularly troublesome, and yet the overall combination of flame throwing, lava slinging, ball squeezing mayhem can almost be too much for Metroid, but if Samus can keep her head screwed on lickety-split and avoid the suicide mouse, then maybe it's possible to come out victorious. What happens when you go up this elevator? Well, hopefully it'll cool down. Ha! Let's just say that to propose that as an accurate description of the variation in circumstances within the frame of reference regarding the surrounding temperature would be somewhat of an understatement. The birds are really fast here. Slow down or you just might crash into a wall and die. Vendrana drifts, more like Tokyo drift. Samus would expect to find solace here after having escaped the magma, but she is only perpetually troubled by the ever-lingering, ever-approaching threat of Suicide Mouse. The boost ball helps Samus do rat tricks on the half-pipe, including the 360 varial Union McTwist, a revolutionary concept within the psychoanalytic skating landscape. Notice how when Samus scans this piece of Chozo lore, the Chozo can only talk about the philosophical underpinnings of the Suicide Mouse. With the Wave Beam, Samus can open purple doors of electrical energy and mouse. Samus has one foe, Suicide Mouse. She can only use the mouse beam to kill the mouse, but there's a symbolic twist. Samus can choose suicide if desired. This research facility is interesting in how it offsets the natural barrenness of the sullen yet blissful icy terrain of the Suicide Mouse.